Welcome, everybody. My name is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. Glad you've joined us for today's webinar. We're going to talk about Dragon Medical and compare the two current and both excellent versions, Dragon Medical 1, the cloud version, and Practice Edition, the single-time purchase version of Dragon. Glad you've joined us. Goal today is to inform and educate. So for some of you, you've been using Dragon Medical for a long time, and you may be interested in refresher features or what's new. This will be really useful. We're going to cover some important features that hopefully will benefit everyone. Some of you, this may be your first time seeing Dragon Medical. You're in for a treat. And for those of you who have not seen Dragon in a long time, you're in for a surprise. Thank you for joining. So our agenda is really quick and simple. What features in Dragon have become new or better recently in the past year? We'll demonstrate the current two versions, Dragon Medical Practice Edition 4 and Dragon Medical 1, the cloud version, and we'll talk about some important details like why would you choose one versus the other. We'll provide a cost summary for each version. Those of you who've worked with PBSI for many years, thank you very much. You understand that we have expertise in working with hundreds of providers in implementing Dragon Medical. Those of you who are new to PBSI as of this webinar, this is probably the important thing to understand, is that PBSI doesn't develop Dragon Medical. The developer, the manufacturer is Nuance, a publicly traded company, and they provide Dragon Medical through a reseller, authorized reseller channel around the world, not just in the United States, with hundreds of thousands of physicians in the US using Dragon Medical. It is the single best tech product that I have seen. Hardware, software, that's a bold statement, but Dragon Medical is a fantastic product. PBSI's role is helping clients really use Dragon successfully. We see so many clients who, out of the box without training, they underutilize features, and that's one thing we'll deal with today is what are the important features that you need to learn. Our role at PBSI is to help implement and improve use of Dragon with a combination of on-site training, online training, ongoing support. So thank you for joining. For those of you who've used previous versions of Dragon, as happens with each release, Dragon, both current versions, Practice Edition 4 and Dragon Medical 1, are both recognizably faster. Acoustic model has been improved with technology under the surface, improved support for browsers, and Windows 10 and Office now 2019, Office 365 support for all current technology is up to date, and reliability therefore is improved with current versions. Auto training, retaining and remembering misrecognized words once they're corrected, all much better. Automatic microphone detection, so if any of you use different microphones, reducing the hassle or eliminating the hassle of going from one device to another. And the new Dragon requires no upfront voice training. It is such an excellent product that without what used to be many years ago, an hour of training, now it's 0 minutes of training. Dragon begins immediately recognizing with quality that's astounding. So it's very, very excellent software. So on your screen, I'm about to demonstrate Dragon Medical Practice Edition 4. The microphone I'm going to be using is a power mic. So on your screen, this Power Mic 3 is simply the newer version of the long-standing Power Mic 2. It's a little thinner and smaller, but functionally, if you use a Power Mic 2, there's no reason to upgrade. Functionally, they're the same. So what I'm going to be doing with this microphone, the reason 97% of all providers use a Power Mic is it really helps with efficiency. So it's an excellent microphone as far as recognition, but the buttons I'm going to use, I'll be able to use with one hand while I'm doing something with my mouse in my other hand. And if any of you use an EHR, you understand you want to be able to move around in your EHR while still dictating. So I'll turn Dragon's listening on and off with a button. I'll go next field, previous field, or tab key. There are a couple of other buttons I'll use, but we don't use a lot of buttons. Mostly it's the convenience of the on-off button is why I'm going to use my Power Mic. So I'm now going to move to a screen that I will go back and forth between Microsoft Word. I'll be dictating into Word today. Dragon is a Windows application that produces text at the cursor. So whatever field you're in your EHR, if it's a one-word field or a full text box, when you push the on button, Dragon starts producing text at the cursor. So what I'm going to do in addition to that is just cover some of the really key features that we want everybody to understand how helpful these are. So first, I'm just going to speak. So on my screen, if you haven't maximized it, I'd highly recommend that because the text will be small. On the very bottom right-hand corner of my screen, you see this little red icon. That's a picture of a microphone not listening to me. So I'm going to push the button on my microphone here in a moment, and when I do that, microphone will turn green, so I know it's listening, and here's how it works. Patient is a 47-year-old male presenting today with pain in the lower left ankle, period. New paragraph. Patient's BP is 210/180, and I'm really concerned about medication dosage, comma, especially highs or oral in combination with Lipitor, 20 milligrams BID, period. New paragraph. So I want to make a point. You see how quickly Dragon responds, but when it pauses, what it's doing is it's assessing what is this speaker doing. Is he giving me a command? Like you'll see me use some commands like the select command or calling up a template, or is he giving me text? And as long as it's pausing, it'll catch up with me and just keep up at 100 miles an hour, but it pauses before it recognizes whether this is a template. So one thing you see about Dragon is it knows clinical punctuation, and regardless of your specialty, it knows all the clinical terms. It will guess about body parts when you're talking about body parts near another body part. It's just fantastic. It knows medication names and spellings, and you can choose whether it does things like convert BID into twice a day or leave it as spoken all caps. So first, just know Dragon is fantastic at producing text, clinically punctuated. I'm going to do a couple of other things. I'm going to use a template to call in a set of words or images from a command, and then I'm going to use the select command to change, and then I'm going to use some fields inside of a template. So here's the way this works. I have a template named normal exam, select regular rate and rhythm, unusual heartbeat, select line, all caps that, go to bottom, new paragraph. Okay, so what did I just do? I said the words normal exam, which I have a template named normal exam. So it recognized those aren't just words, those are words that are to call up this set of text. Then I used the select command to select some text, and then I said all select line, all caps that. Just there are not many commands that you will end up using. You will learn 6 or 8 key commands, and with that you'll be a Dragon whiz. So the reason for the all caps, of course, if this is going to another provider, we want them to be able to see what's new or different without a lot of difficulty or searching on their part. So I use the template, I use the select command. Now I'm going to come back and identify what happens when I use a template with fill in the blanks. So I'll do that now. My referral letter. Okay, so I stopped with my again, I turned the microphone off. You see these brackets. These are fill in the blank fields where I'm going to now use a button on my microphone to move from field to field, and you'll see how this works. With pain in the left foot. Normal exam. Examination today produced nothing that was discernible, period. Patient describes pain as 3 out of 10, period. We'll need to schedule an x-ray, period. Beyond that, I'll see the patient again in 1 week. No further medication is prescribed at this time, period. Okay, and so forth. So what I just did is I called up a template. I'll get rid of some of this text on the screen. And that template included my signature, which is really an image. You can have templates that include an entire letterhead. It could be your logo and your name and address. You can fill in an entire letter inside of a Dragon template. So since most EHRs produce some components of the letter, then typically we're just speaking certain parts of the letter. So that's an example of a template that has fill in the blank fields. So I'm now going to do a couple of things that are really important here. I'm going to create a new template, and I'm going to find out what templates exist. So this is really important. Why is it important? Because the idea, as a person who is producing clinical dictation is I know when I've just spoken something that I've said before and I'll say again, and I say to myself, man, I'm tired of saying that same set of words. And so once you've spoken some text, just by selecting the text, you can make it a brand new template. So the word template and shortcut are synonymous. And so I'll show you how this works. Normal ROS. So with this, I just called in an existing template, but I'm going to make believe that I just spoke these words for the first time, and I can bold them. I could do this with my voice. I could say select skin and bold that and so forth. So I'm just making a couple of changes here that I now think, okay, I've got a really good template. I want to save this. So how do I make that into a brand new template I can use again? I select the text, and now I'm going to use this command called make that a shortcut. So Dragon users who aren't familiar with this feature, this probably works in your version as well. I'm going to do that now. Make that a shortcut. Extended ROS. Click Save. Okay, so what did I just do? I called after I selected the text. I said, make that a shortcut. A screen popped up, and everything that I had selected was already filled in the body of my new template, and the cursor stopped for the template name. And I said, extended ROS, so I used my voice to create the name of the template, and then I used my voice, another feature I haven't described, the click command. With the click command, I can click things on the screen. So if I'm in Microsoft Word, I could say click Acrobat or click References or click, if there were the name of a button, I could say click Save, and all of those things. It looks on whatever screen you're in, whatever EHR or any other Windows application, and it will, and you can use your voice to click. So now I want to use that template, so I called it Extended ROS. So let me demonstrate how this works. Patient was here today and experienced my extended ROS, period. New paragraph. Extended ROS. Okay, so how did it know the difference between these words and the template name? So I already had bold set on my screen. That's why that came in as bold. Dragon is looking at context. So the words extended ROS in the course of a sentence, it knows that's just a set of words. But when I pause with more than a quarter of a second pause before and after, it says, that's a template name. Do we have a template called extended ROS? Sure enough, we do. And there it is. So that is how you create a brand new template. Except for now, doggone it, I know I've stored some templates. I want to use one of them right now. I do not remember the name. What can I do? So here I'm going to use a command called Open Command Browser. I'll do that. Open Command Browser. And on my screen, up pops in alphabetic order all of the commands or templates that I've ever named. So here are, I use the word normal a lot when I'm creating a template. You don't have to use the word normal. You can use any set of words. So my short exam, okay, that's the one I want. My short exam. Hernia evaluation. 1 week. Select 1 week. 1 month. So I did something else there. So I had a couple of fill in the blanks. One of the blanks I filled in with the words 1 week because I have a template that says I want the patient to return in 1 week. And then I used the select command to select that and replaced 1 week with 1 month. So this is the basic blocking and tackling. Knowing how to interpret your voice, that comes out of the box. Dragon will be fantastic. Knowing how to use the features effectively, where you use the select command effectively and you use fields, and you can say next field, previous field. Knowing how to create new shortcuts, knowing how to find out what's already out there. A couple other features I'm going to demonstrate. This is just kind of a primer on really important features I'd encourage everybody to learn how to use, and they're not difficult. These are not it's not a long list. So sometimes we want to do research. A lot of people hate when a patient says, yeah, I was looking on the internet, and well, maybe, just maybe, there might be a case where you want to do some research, or you want to help the patient with some research, and you could say, well, let's look this up, and here's how it works. I might be in the middle of my EHR, I might be in the middle of Word or Outlook. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I can use this search command where the context is search website name for condition, and it's looking for a clinical website, so here's how it works. Search up to date for insomnia. Click overview of treatment of insomnia in adults. Okay, so what just happened is when I used the search command, it said, is there a clinical website for UpToDate? Sure enough, it found that. It decided, it looked on my PC and decided what's my default browser. I use Chrome, so it used Chrome. On your PC, it might be Internet Explorer. And then once it pulled up that site, it did, I said search UpToDate for insomnia. It put the word into the search field, wherever it is on that particular website. And then once it displayed something else, I could say click this or click that, anything that appears to be click. If I said click choice of initial therapy, which I'll do now, click choice of initial therapy, and so forth. It continues to navigate with my voice instead of my mouse. So something that some people will use a lot, some people will rarely use, but this search command, try it if you are an existing Dragon user. It works beautifully. Okay, another really key feature that a lot of people miss is called hidden mode or dictation box. And I want to describe this. This will be the last thing I demonstrate significantly. So hidden mode allows me to accumulate text in a box while I look around in my EHR. That's the primary application. I'm looking around, I'm looking at different parts of the EHR, and as I click around, I don't want to keep having to come back to a spot and place my text in a box. I want to continue to look around. So I'll touch a button on my microphone. That opens up this translucent box in it, and whatever translucency level or wherever I place it, size and shape, it remains in that same place next time I use it. So you can put it anywhere on your screen, and wherever you put it, it will be there next time. So when this box is in place, instead of producing text at my cursor, it'll start accumulating in that box. So I'll go look at the patient's previous history. I don't have an EMR in front of me, so I won't actually do this, but let's say I just did. Patient is here today to evaluate knee pain, period. Last exam revealed a tear in the left meniscus, period, new paragraph. Now I turn my microphone off and I go look someplace else at something else about this patient's chart. No change in social history for this patient, new paragraph, and so forth. And I do an exam. Today's exam revealed no improvement, period. We need to schedule this patient for surgery, period, new paragraph. Transfer text. So what happened is it was accumulating so that I didn't have to keep coming back to the place I want to speak. So let me just say, for most of you, you understand you're not going to replace the clicks in your EHR, not all of them for sure. What we're trying to do is replace significant dictation and significant typing. So it's usually the HPI, the assessment and plan, places wherever you want to tell this patient's story in a way that's really direct. So something that was recently coined to me by another provider, really, I think, understood this, but coining this term, listen to what he said to me. We were talking about the quality of documentation that goes out from the office or into the office, and he said, we're known by our documentation. And I thought, that's exactly right. You get clinical dictation results from other providers, and you look at it, and it's either a bunch of templates or a bunch of misspellings, or it appears very brief, and you're thinking, I wonder if this provider is really careful. I wonder if they're thorough. I wonder if they're really being more than cursory. Well, sometimes the provider might be just an excellent provider, but their documentation just stinks. And they're unwilling to put time into it, or they have, it just takes too long to make a progress note that really is complete and formatted correctly. So with Dragon Medical, you can turn the key elements in your letters and progress notes into something that's much, much better. And the case can be made, I think made really effectively, that the amount of incoming referrals that happen as a result of improving our documentation quality can be really, really significant. Okay, so we've talked about Dragon Medical Practice Edition, which is the preeminent product for most providers out there. The boxed edition, which you purchase one time and there are no ongoing fees, that is the best choice, because unless there are specific conditions where the cloud version makes sense for you, and I'll talk about that just in a second, Dragon Medical Practice Edition for what you just saw is really the product for you. Dragon Medical 1 is a much thinner application on your PC. Now all the processing is done in the cloud. It's very secure. There's no upfront cost except for training. And so you pay a monthly subscription. So ultimately, you'll spend more money with Dragon Medical One, which is why for most providers, it just doesn't make sense because it ends up being more expensive. But there are cases where if you have a really complex environment or you're going all over the place and using a bunch of different PCs, Dragon Medical One can make sense. So this is a product where it's automatically being updated all the time. So you're getting much more regular updates instead of waiting for the next version to purchase. So I'm going to go ahead now and demonstrate Dragon Medical One. So instead of Practice Edition, which I'll exit from my screen, I'm now going to load Dragon Medical One. This is the same functional application. I'm going to log into it. But now the processing is done in the cloud. It says, what microphone do I want? I'm going to use PowerMic Mobile. I'm going to use my iPhone as a microphone. So when I do this, I'm loading Dragon Medical One. Now it pops up on my screen. It presents in a little different way. So you see my username for Dragon Medical is up top here, and I can move this around on my screen. But this is, instead of being in my box down at the bottom, like Dragon Medical, I'm exiting that. It presents wherever I want it on my screen. So this orange says I don't have a microphone that's currently in operation. So what I'm doing now on my iPhone that's in my hands, I'm going to my PowerMic Mobile. It automatically logs me in, and it automatically connects to the computer searching for a match. And here shortly, you'll see this turns red. And now it knows the microphone's not on, but it knows the microphone's connected. So now I'm going to use Dragon Medical One. It's the same idea. I'm going to turn the microphone on now. Patient is a 16-year-old female presenting today for unusual symptoms that might be related to intestinal problems, period, new paragraph. Normal exam. Select clear auscultation bilaterally. Unusual symptoms, period. And so forth. The functioning of the two products is really the same with just a few exceptions. So one of the downsides of Dragon Medical One is when you call in a template, it can only include text, not graphic. Now that's something that will change in the future. So where there are feature differences, interestingly, the boxed version has better, more complete feature set. That won't always be true, but it's true today. So you'll get feature updates in the cloud version. You can use thin clients. If you are in an organization where not everybody has a PC, you have a thin client, which is a screen and a keyboard, then this is an application that will work beautifully where Practice Edition will not. There's a feature called Clinical Calculators that I can use. I won't demonstrate just for sake of time, but it has specific specialty-related formulas that for OB or for many different specialties, there are calculations that get made. Pediatrics, there's some calculations that can be made, and it stops at prompts, and you give it the answers to the prompts, and it does an actual calculation and produces the entire result in your progress note. So there are some benefits, but frankly, for most folks out there, Dragon Medical One is just not the better product, but it works beautifully. It's fast. We've had providers who've used both products, and we see no functional difference in speed or performance between the two products. So that's not a very detailed comparison, but the main reason why somebody picks one or the other is financial. So I'm going to move on to that now. All right. And let's talk about, first of all, how do you make sure that if you invest in either version of Dragon that you make effective use of it? And the answer is training. Today, you're seeing what I'm going to call a demonstration. I speak, you watch, hopefully you listen to this and you say, yeah, I understood that. But that's different than you're at the keyboard, you have the microphone. So training where a trainer is standing there and you're doing the work using live dictation. We set this up in advance to make sure that the training is effective, and we've already had discussions about workflow before a trainer shows up. We can do training on-site or we can do training online. For most folks, on-site is really the better method. So one-on-one training, and we recommend 2 training sessions. If you're a new user to Dragon, 2 sessions per clinician, where the first session The trainer's there with you. You're dictating for 3 or 4 patients, and the end of that training session, always the result is, oh, this is great, this is fantastic. The trainer says the provider's going to do great. But when we only used to do 1 training session, there were a pretty significant number of cases where a couple weeks later we'd talk to the practice and that we'd hear, provider's not really using it, or it's been frustrated, and what? That just doesn't make sense. So it turns out that that's mostly a human nature thing. So accountability after the first training session, we're going to ask you to commit, not for our benefit, for your benefit, that you're going to use Dragon for at least 3 patients a day, or you're going to dictate in Dragon at least ½ hour a day. Most people just go full bore from day 1, but if you use Dragon, then we've got a second training session scheduled a week or 2 or 3 weeks later. Now the trainer shows up, and instead of saying, well, what did we talk about last time? You're saying, okay, I've had some questions, and training works beautifully. So combine Dragon with a bit of training, and you will protect your investment. So how much does Dragon cost? If you're a first-time user, new copy of Dragon is $1,599 for PBSI webinar attendees. We discount this. You can't find Dragon anywhere for less than this price. It's a price-protected product. It can only be sold through authorized resellers. So this is a way that we can provide a discount that you can't find on the web, because we do it for webinar attendees. Then we recommend a couple of training sessions, and this is simply a matter of proximity. If you're right next door to us, then your cost per session is way less than $250. You're basically paying for the time of a trainer to be in your office, and will help with setup. And so you figure with Boxed Edition, you're going to one-time spend $2,600, and you're going to buy an upgrade sometime in the next 5 years. So figure you'll spend $3,000 over 5 years. No monthly fees. How much are you spending on Dragon? If you use it for 60 months, you've spent $3,000. Divide those 2 numbers, you average about $50 a month. That's about the cost to use Dragon. It's an investment like buying a PC. You pay for it one time, but you're using it over a period of time, and $50 a month compared to the cost of any reasonable transcription or time efficiency gains, it's an absolute no-brainer. Don't mean to be disrespectful, but Dragon provides such improvements in documentation quality and reduction in time for the provider, well worth it. So what's the alternative with Dragon Medical One? So if you're an existing Dragon Medical user, your first year is $79 a year, ongoing $123 after that. For everybody else, it's $123 per month. I'm sorry, these are per month. So, and there's an upfront cost that's required by Nuance for training and setup. So if you do the comparison, you'll see that after a couple of years, you'll spend more money on Dragon Medical One, and it has to be worth it in order to do that. So at this point, my recommendation, not worth it for most of us. Use the Boxed Edition. They have exactly the same engine. That might not be true a year or 2 years from now, where one continues to get upgraded, but Dragon Medical Practice Edition 4 is a fantastic product. That's the recommendation for most of us. So we're finished with content. PBSI provides lots of IT services for healthcare, and we're happy to talk to you about any of these, but today's topic, Dragon Medical. And I want to thank you for your attendance. We are finished. We really are conscientious about holding to the allotted time that we said this would be a ½ hour. And so we're finished with content. Thank you very much for your attention.